Hey, I'm David Levin, and this is Pop Goes the Culture. This is part 2 of my conversation with the amazing Lea Thompson. Last time we talked a little bit about her early career. Today we'll cover her appearance in one of the first of the great Marvel comic films. Or maybe not. Long before Guardians of the Galaxy and his, spoiler alert, cameo appearance in the credits of that film, there was, of course, Howard the Duck. But first, we'll talk a bit more about the Back to the Future sequels. Was it strange to duplicate? Chris said that it was strange to duplicate, to refine that character after 5 years.
Was it 5 years? Yeah. Must have been for him, but because I got to play so many different people, right. And none of them were similar. What was hard for me was that Crispin wasn't there, and they had this imposter dude as Crispin, which was really upsetting to me. Because I thought Crispin was a genius, and he clearly was. In the first movie, he was a genius. Oh, yeah. Just a flawless performance.
Want to do it again?
Well, that's another historical story. They couldn't get along with him. He was also very method. You know, he just did a lot of. It's hard to be an actor, you know. It's hard. Some people can't just, be real political and funny and then be real sad, you know. I mean, I can kind of do that pretty well because I'm a mother, I multitask. But some actors get stuck kind of in what they're doing. And a lot of directors understand that and a lot of them don't. And Crispin was kind of difficult and he had trouble hitting his marks, which is why in Back to the Future 2 they have him upside down. They had designed that whole thing where he was upside down just because they were so mad at him for not hitting his marks. They were like, ha ha ha, we'll make him hit his marks. And they hung him, they hung the other guy, but it was originally designed for Crispin.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting, but...
Plus it made it harder to see that it wasn't Crispin to the audience. You know, if the guy's upside down, you're sort of, in age makeup, it's kind of tougher to figure that out.
Crispin was a genius. He was,
yeah, he was
incomparable. When we all got together to watch, I remember this really specifically, because I was a little bitter about him not doing it, because I knew that, even selfishly, they couldn't use me as much. But also that I just thought he was great. What was I saying? I went off on something.
Talk about Crispin, seeing it later.
When we came back after 5 years, like you told me, to watch the movie at Amblin with everybody to kind of get in that Back to the Future mood before we did the next one. I remember specifically all the brass was sitting behind me, and Steven and Bob and all the producers and Michael and everybody, Tom Wilson, and they laughed hardest and most at everything that Crispin did. Everything when he holds up the bra. And he was like, oh, you want me to make a pass? Everything he did, they were just like, ah! I was like, can't you hear yourselves? He's just brilliant. Anyway, I'm still sad about it because he's just such a great actor.
And then the third movie, you played yet another, not even Lorraine, just some other ancestor.
Yeah. Well, the third movie I didn't get to do too much. But I did. It was fun playing with Michael.
Those moments, though.
In the Irish thing was really fun to do.
Zemeckis with the special effects, strange with the double and triple.
He's a genius. I mean, I remember specifically. I think it was Back to the Future 2 when Michael was his daughter and his son and himself, and then he was 3 people in this one dining room scene, and they were just like all the geniuses were all sitting around, and now they can do it, but this was cutting edge technology at the time. It hadn't really been done, and they had this computerized camera on the robot camera that could do the same move twice, and they'd have to put Michael in the next day because they'd have so much makeup and blah, blah, blah. And all the geniuses are sitting around from ILM or whatever trying to figure out how to do it. And I remember Zemeckis would sit there and let them talk for an hour to about the third hour. He'd go, okay, guys, this is how you do it. He'd be like really tolerant. But then he'd tell them how to do it because he was so smart. He just always knew what was going on. He's just incomparable. His taste for detail and for everything. He was always thinking about what was behind, like what should the cat run across from right to left? Or, you know, he would always be thinking of something else, which was
Not a little detail.
extraordinary. Yeah.
The movie that just sort of like if you watch the movie once, you enjoy the movie. If you watch it again more than one time, the little details of
Yeah.
what he puts in all the little scenes. You know.
And as a filmmaker, he's such a great storyteller that he lets the audience know very early that they should be watching. You know, what always amazed me was that this one joke in the very beginning of Back to the Future when I say, you know, your Uncle Jailbird Joey didn't make parole. It's almost 40 minutes later that he pays off the joke when Michael Fox goes, "Get used to those bars, kid." And the audience never failed to get that joke. And that, after doing a sitcom, if you could, you know, get an audience to remember a setup for 40 minutes, you're a genius storyteller.
Even Twin Pine Mall and Lone Pine.
Yeah.
Though, it's just like, it doesn't pay it off till the very end of the movie.
Right.
And if you blink, you miss it.
Right.
It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, you think somebody's going to see a movie once, you're not putting stuff in there for the people who are going to watch it again.
Right.
And he did.
Right. That was a new concept, I think, in a lot of ways. You know, the whole idea that you want to get people to come back and see a movie. That wasn't so. In 1985, it was a new concept. And
How did it feel? I mean, that movie exploded.
yeah.
Nobody expected the kind of reaction it got.
No, except for, I guess, Universal, because it only took them 3 weeks or something from the time they wrapped to the time they got it in the movie theaters.
Really?
They had like 6 main editors in these editing bays just because they were like, this movie's coming out fast. I guess they previewed it or something in a rough form, and it was like, we've got gold. So they got it out.
Wow.
It was kind of awesome.
How was that for you? How did things change for you?
I don't know.
Okay. When you came back for that movie, was it strange? Was it fun? Was it for the sequel? For the
It was fun. It was a big payday. Woohoo! No, it was really fun. It was really fun, and it was. I had done a lot of movies in between there, but it was also a year, and so it was kind of a hard year for me. The Back to the Future 2 and 3 were done in a year. Yeah. We did them together. It was one script, and then it kind of got too long, and only I don't know. I can't remember. I have a bad memory except for my lines and where my kids are, but they just decided to split the movie and make it 2 movies. So that became a year. And because I wasn't much in Back to the Future 3, it was a lot of sitting around, which I don't like. I kept saying, just get me out and I'll give you back some of the money. I just can't sit around. But I did. I sat around for a long time.
Did you ever go on the ride?
Yes, I went on the Back to the Future ride a bunch of times. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. Did you go to the opening of the rides? Or?
I think I did. Did you go? You probably did.
No, but we get on for free when you're there.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I get on the Back to the Future ride. I get to the front of the line when I show up. I go, I'm Lorraine McFly. And I go, really? Who's that?
Yeah, Christopher Lloyd said, went to the opening, went on the ride 4 times, got sick. Good ride.
Oh, I love Christopher Lloyd.
I've done to do like one scene with him, right? Or...
What was fascinating to me is that I've done 3 movies, 4 movies, 5, 6 movies. 6 movies with Christopher Lloyd, and I think I've been in 2 scenes with him, 3 scenes, in 6 movies.
Which were the other?
3 scenes.
What were the other 3 movies?
Okay, all 3 Back to the Futures. I did a movie for SeaWorld, like a 3D movie for SeaWorld. I did a movie called The Right to Remain Silent. And then I did Dennis the Menace with him. I did something else, too. I don't remember even. But I've done... and I had no scenes with him. It's really weird.
I guess this particular movie was probably like a mixed blessing for you. Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck is an awesome movie. Awesome! I'm surprised I didn't get an Academy Award nomination for that. Howard the Duck... People get all excited about thinking I'm going to be really upset if they mention it, but it's a very famous movie for... it's got a huge cult following. It's crazy. Someone was telling me how much I could probably sell my costumes on eBay from Howard the Duck. I have all the costumes.
Really?
Yeah, I have every one of them. And someone was like, I was like, my kids play in those clothes. And they're like, it's a huge cult following for Howard the Duck. I mean, people love things that everybody puts down. They like to be, and a lot of my fan mail starts out with, I'm the only one who liked Howard the Duck.
I liked it.
It was okay. My kids couldn't watch it. As soon as I got in bed with that duck, they got all scared. They're like, Mom, gross, you're kissing duck. It was not a great movie at all. But, you know, there's so many flops. There are so many flops and so many dog bomb disasters. It's kind of cool that my biggest dog bomb disaster, which, you know, coincidentally was in the same year that I had the biggest movie of the entire year. I went from the biggest movie to the biggest flop. It was a real good lesson in Hollywood for me. I'll take the hit instead of the bomb. But everybody wanted that part. And I remember all the people auditioning for the duck voice. It was like a steady stream of huge stars, which they should have used for the voice. I remember when Jay Leno came, I was like, who's that guy with that big chin? He came on the set, and I was like, whoa. Because it was even bigger when he was younger. But there, I think Bill Murray and like every comedian was always like sheepishly coming up to me that I've met, and they're like, I didn't get Howard the Duck. Aren't I lucky?
Well, it was a cult comic book, right? So
Yeah.
set up what Howard the Duck was for those unfortunates who...
I don't know Howard the Duck. Who? Yeah, it's a cult comic book about a really wisecracking, cigar-smoking, dirty. It was pretty dirty, Howard the Duck. I think maybe that might have been the real problem.
It was never really dirty, the comic. I thought it was kind of gritty, and it was kind of it was not like a sex comic or something.
Well, it was a little more harsh than the movie was. A little
cynical.
hardcore.
It was a cynical comic.
Yeah, he was very cynical, but he was having sex with Beverly Switzler. I mean, they sleep together and everything.
Yeah.
So there was that weird, you know,
Interspecies.
avian, intergalactic, interspecies kind of romance.
Well, you know, Lord Love a Duck.
Lord Love a Duck, exactly. They didn't have the technology. If they had made that movie as they made the Zemeckis movie with the animated, if the duck had been animated, I think it would have been better.
Or like the Lord of the Rings type thing, like Smigel or something.
Yeah, if they didn't have that kind
Or
of
like
technology.
Roger Rabbit.
Yes, that's it. If Howard the Duck would have been more like Roger Rabbit, I think it would have been better because they were constantly waiting for the duck to go, you know, and it was always glitching, like, you know, if a plane flew over and someone used their garage door opener, like, in the middle of a scene. And, you know, the worst thing was they would shoot the duck's close-up before mine. They called me Dawn because they'd always shoot my close-up at dawn. I was like, hey, who's the starlet? Who's getting the bags under their eyes? And they would shoot the duck. Yeah, it was a comic book, a cult comic book, and they had very high hopes for it. It was a very big, expensive movie. And of course...
George Lucas was the producer?
George Lucas was the producer, and so everybody wanted that part, I remember. I was very hot at the time, so I got it. Plus I dressed up funny and wore my hair all funny and dressed like Madonna for the audition.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was doing some other movie at the time, and was it Space Camp? Yeah, I was doing Space Camp at the time, and I remember I was trying to buy all that jewelry at a secondhand store so I could look like Madonna with the big earrings and Cyndi Lauper.
It was the era of Madonna and Cyndi Lauper.
Yep.
Wasn't it?
It was. But I sang all my own songs and did okay.
Did you write some of the songs?
No, I don't know why they say that.
The thing on IMDb that says
I know.
you wrote the song.
Not everything you read in the computer is true.
Don't tell me that. It gets rid of half my research.
Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. So that wasn't the only thing that happened with that movie, though, is it?
No, my husband Howard did not direct that movie.
He did not.
No, that's another
That's the other
weird myth.
How did you meet your husband Howard?
My husband Howard, Deutch directed me in a movie called Some Kind of Wonderful, which was my third movie I did with Eric Stoltz after Back to the Future. I did that movie. I turned it down, and then Howard the Duck came out, and I was reeling from the reviews. I was shivering in the corner of my house with a blanket and a bottle of bourbon. I was terrified. It was the worst thing ever. The reviews were so bad.
Nobody prepared you?
I don't know. There's no preparation for that kind of huge dog bomb disaster. So then Eric Stoltz rode up Laurel Canyon on a bicycle, I remember, script in hand, and said, Lea, they still want you for this movie, Some Kind of Wonderful. And I thought, a voice from God said, get back on the horse. Get back on the horse. So I said yes. And like 3 days later, I was shooting. And I remember it was like one of the hardest days of my life. It was like walking the gauntlet. You know, the whole crew was like, spitting at me, throwing tomatoes. She's in that movie. And I swear to God, it was terrible. I cried. And I remember it so vividly. My first scene was in a Suzuki Samurai car. Remember the Suzuki Samurais from the 80s? And anyway, Howard Deutch was the director of that movie. And he went about casting the perfect girl. So he always wanted me for the part. And so he did a good job because I married him. And now we have 2 kids, 15 and 11. And we've been married a long time.
Did the relationship begin on the movie, or did it begin after the movie?
No, I waited till the publicity tour. Yes, I didn't want to be, accused of getting too many close-ups. Yeah. He had a crush on me. People would always say if they wanted something, they'd say, Lea, go ask Howie. We want this room to be green. Tell him you like this room green.
Did that work?
It did. He would listen to me.
You still listen to you?
No.
Not so much. That's so funny. We're going to skip ahead a little bit to Carolyn in the City.
Okay.
That's a good show. How did that happen for you?
I did this movie, this wonderful TV movie called The Substitute Wife with Farrah Fawcett and Peter Weller. Just one of my great parts. I can think that I've had 3 great parts in my career, one being Back to the Future, Substitute Wife being one, and then doing Cabaret on Broadway was playing Sally Bowles. So those are my 3 great parts. And this was just a beautiful movie, just a tearjerker, wonderfully conceived and written. And anyway, it got on NBC, and it got like a 30 share or something, which was great. And so they called me up like the next morning. They were like, we want to be in business with you.
Next time, my 3-part conversation with Lea Thompson concludes. We'll be talking about her 90s sitcom, Caroline in the City, and her appearance as a French floozy in the Beverly Hills movie. I'm looking forward to it, aren't you? I'm David Levin. You can follow Pop Goes the Culture on Twitter at PopGoCulture, Facebook, or email me at popgoestheculturetv@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. Ouch! Ooh.